This bizarre discovery started with a call to Marine headquarters just after sunrise. A beach patrol from a small coastal town reported that an enormous cruise ship had appeared overnight at their shore. The giant boat was rusted, silent, and appeared unmanned. Locals were confused and nervous. "It wasn't there yesterday," one caller said. "It just showed up." Everyone needed answers, but then the Marines looked inside. The photos attached to the request were grainy but clear enough. A cruise ship towering over the shallow waves sat angled near the shoreline like it was stuck into the sea floor. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. There were no lights, no motion, just rust and wear. People had gathered nearby, but none dared to get close. Some claimed it gave off a smell like oil or rot. Whatever it was spooky. A Marine recon team was already stationed an hour south and was redirected immediately. Being called for grounded vessels wasn't unusual, but something this big and odd was definitely different. There was no transponder signal coming from the cruise ship, no distress call, and no name in the system that matched the ship's profile. One detail stood out in the photos. A name or half of one was printed in large red block letters along the ship's hull. Armas. The rest had likely faded away, eaten by salt and weather. It didn't match any current cruise liners. Might have been retired long ago, someone speculated, or never registered properly to begin with. None of the guesses were comforting. Lieutenant Morgan Dane was leading the team. He was 35, known for his calm under pressure and a keen sense of when things weren't what they seemed. He had read every word of the report twice. "Let's gear up," he told his men. "We'll approach slow, document everything, and only go on board if it's safe." The tide was coming in fast. They had to act now. The team set out just before 11 a.m. in a small marine vessel, skimming across calm waters, following the shoreline until they reached the beach where the ship lay. Ahead, the silhouette of the massive ship grew larger. Morgan stood at the bow, squinting at its corroded frame. "That thing has been floating for a while," he muttered. "But how did it get here, and why?" As they approached, it only got stranger. The cruise ship looked like a relic and artifact from another time. Its white hull was streaked orange from rust, the paint flaking like dried skin. The name Armas stretched across its side in block letters, just as the report showed them. Waves lapped lazily against its frame, as if even the ocean was hesitant to disturb it further. They circled the vessel twice. The deck above was empty, at least as far as they could tell. Windows were either shattered or coated with layers of salt and dirt. There appeared to be no sound except the wind and the sloshing of the sea. "It's like a ghost ship," one of the Marines whispered. No one disagreed, but Lieutenant Morgan had a strange feeling about this particular mission. Something about this cruise ship didn't feel right, so he urged his team to move cautiously, and this would prove to be a wise decision. The lifeboats were still attached, unused. The anchors hadn't been deployed. That suggested the ship hadn't intended to stop here. It was as if it drifted and just gave up. But how? Where was the crew? The passengers? Morgan turned to his squad. "We'll establish visual contact on all sides and then plan our entry. No one goes on board yet. Clear?" The men nodded silently. They backed off to a safer distance, engines idling while the team regrouped. Morgan grabbed a clipboard and began outlining zones for deck, lower-level bridge. Each man would be assigned a quadrant once they boarded. "We take it section by section," he said. "Treat it like a live site. No assumptions." They needed answers, but they'd get them one step at a time. The team brought their patrol vessel in as close as they safely could. A badly corroded ladder dangled from the cruise ship's port side, old and swaying. Lieutenant Dane eyed it skeptically. "That doesn't look like it's held up anything heavier than seagulls in a while," he said. Still, they had no choice. One by one, the Marines began to climb. The climb was tense. The metal ladder creaked with every step, the wood rungs rough and damp beneath their boots. The ladder swayed from left to right several times during the ascent, and one false move could send a man into the churning waters below. "Keep moving," Morgan called out calmly. "Don't stop. The sooner we're up, the safer we'll be." Each footstep felt heavier than the last. The first Marine reached the top and hauled himself over the railing, disappearing momentarily from sight. Then another. Finally, Morgan climbed up, his hands gripping tightly as the wind tugged at his uniform. He reached the deck and pulled himself over. Solid wood was beneath his feet again. The planks were cracked, but they held, which was comforting. Even though Morgan was the team leader and needed to project confidence, he had to admit that he felt nervous during his climb, but he was glad his team trusted him enough to follow his command. The entire team of 12 Marines now stood in formation on the empty upper deck. "What is our next move, Lieutenant?" one of the members asked Morgan. "All right, eyes on me," Lieutenant Morgan Dane ordered. He pointed toward a map of the ship's layout. "We split into 4 teams of 3. We'll search entry points on the north, south, east, and west sides. Stay sharp, stay in contact. We'll regroup in the center once we've made progress." Each team nodded and moved out. Morgan remained with Corporal Tim and Private Lewis. "We've got the south side," Morgan confirmed. Ahead loomed a set of massive double doors labeled Main Dining. The large entrance seemed too inviting, and Morgan's instincts told him to be cautious. "Let's move," he said, leading the team forward. Tim tested the handle. It's not locked, but something's pressing back from the other side. They pushed with all their strength. The door budged slightly, but wouldn't open. "Stay here," Morgan said. "I'll find a way in." Around the corner, he spotted a cracked floor-level window. He removed his boot and shattered the glass, clearing the frame before peering in. Inside, he saw the problem couches and cabinets stacked in a makeshift barricade. "They didn't want anyone in, or something out," he muttered. He climbed inside, landing with a thud. In the dim light, he approached the blockade. Shoving piece by piece aside, he finally cleared a path. Dust clouded the air, but from outside, Tim and Lewis saw the movement. Morgan called out for them to push, and the doors opened fully. "We're in," he said, turning on his flashlight. The room was vast and trashed. Tables and chairs were overturned, artwork hung crookedly, and silence hung thick. They stepped over shattered glass and broken porcelain. "Stay close," Morgan warned. Napkins were still neatly folded on the tables, a tray abandoned near the bar. "It's like they were in the middle of dinner," Tim murmured. They moved into a narrow hallway cluttered with tools and gear. Morgan picked up a navy blue overall labeled Armas Engineering Unit, torn and moldy. "Something happened fast," he said. They pressed on, the ship groaning beneath their feet. At a junction, Morgan chose the right corridor. The floor sloped, unsettling their balance. Suddenly, Lewis froze. "Movement," he whispered. All 3 stopped. Something had darted past the edge of their flashlight beam. Then came a footstep slow and deliberate. Morgan raised his weapon. "Show yourself!" A figure stepped into view. Morgan fired once into the air. The man stumbled back, arms raised. He was filthy, bearded, and dressed in rags, holding a metal tool. "No, please don't shoot," the man pleaded. "I'm not sick." Morgan stood firm but didn't fire again. "Drop the tool and step into the light," he ordered. The man obeyed immediately. The man dropped the tool with a loud clang. It slid across the floor and hit the wall. He stepped forward, breathing hard. "I didn't know who you were," he said, hands trembling. "I thought maybe you were one of them." Morgan signaled the others to lower their weapons. The man looked weak and malnourished. "You from this ship?" Morgan asked. The man nodded. "My name's Andrew Foster, maintenance supervisor. I've been hiding for 12 days, maybe more." "You're alone?" Morgan asked. "Now I am not," Andrew replied. "There are more of us crew members. They're further back." His words felt vague, but he continued. "We heard you coming. I went ahead to ask for your help and to warn you." "Warn us from what?" Morgan pressed. Andrew hesitated, eyes flicking nervously down the corridor. "Come with me. There's a safer room ahead." Sealed off. Morgan exchanged glances with his men and nodded. Andrew led them through a tight corridor lit by emergency strips. Despite his condition, he moved with purpose. At a locked door, he entered a code. It opened to reveal a converted supply room now, a bunker where around 10 other crew members waited in silence. Andrew calmed them and turned back to Morgan. "Sit wherever you like." As the door sealed shut behind them, he began. "We've been waiting for help for 5 years, and now it's finally come." Morgan tensed. "Start making sense." Andrew explained that the ship once had 50 crew members. They were sent offshore from a Cuban harbor as part of a routine maintenance program to keep older cruise ships active without tourists. The Armistice was due for retirement, but the company sent it out once more. During the run, the communication system failed. We became a ghost ship, no way to call for help, no way to return. His voice cracked. There were more of us, but things went wrong. He revealed that the ship's outdated infrastructure, especially the plumbing, began to fail after years at sea. Pipes burst. Water systems were compromised. Over the last 6 months, bacteria infiltrated their food supplies, leading to illness. We had no choice but to isolate, Andrew said. This room, these few people, we're the ones still well enough to wait. Others aren't so lucky. Morgan grew increasingly somber. He feared for his crew and hoped none had come into contact with the infected. But Andrew's final words brought some comfort. The ocean left us drifting for years, but now, somehow, we've reached your waters, and you found us. A hint of relief softened Morgan's expression. We'll get you out of here, he promised. Just then, a knock sounded at the sealed door. It was Morgan's remaining crew, drawn by the earlier gunshot. Everything all right, sir? Morgan opened the door. I'm fine, but these people need our help. The operation to return the survivors to land began immediately. The healthy were evacuated first, followed by the sick under quarantine protocols. Medical personnel provided care to all, and the long ordeal was finally over. After 5 years lost at sea, hope had returned. The Marines brought more than just rescue, they brought closure, healing, and the long-awaited promise of home.